What's up, people? How's it going? Thanks for the intro. I just got a new shirt, guys. Check it out. See, I'll give you some context. My mom is from Colombia. And so as I entered my Brookline High experience, my career, I decided to join a club. Let's get out there. And so as I was selecting my club of choice, there were many to choose from. I ended up going with the Brookline High Latinx Club. I remember walking in that day and immediately getting hit by a wave of community, just an overwhelming feeling. There were people from all different backgrounds, speaking different sounding Spanish, which was so cool to me. I only really heard my Colombian Spanish. And there was food being made in the back of the room off a little griddle. It was really good. And of course, the highlight of the day, which we spent the rest of the day doing, there was some great music that just made me want to dance. And so, of course, with that energy in that room, I became a regular. Fast forward a year, I'm walking back in to the club, a familiar face, and there's a teacher in the group. She's new, I don't really know her. And she addresses the group asking for a volunteer to speak at this day at the high school called the Day of Racial Reform and Solidarity. It's an annual event at BHS where students and teachers get up on stage much like this and talk about their experiences, their life stories having to do with their racial identities. And so the teacher asked, she threw out the question, who's gonna do it, guys? And immediately people were ducking and dodging eyes, afraid to look up at the teacher, thinking they might be the random tribute selected. And after a few long seconds of silence, I felt some eyes settle on me. Uh-oh. And then to break the silence, someone from the back of the room said, "Hey, Pablo, what if you did the speech?" Oh no. And that wasn't particularly out of character. I was never really one to back down from winging a presentation, a slideshow or something, or raising my hand up in class. That was never an issue for me, but the issue for me was in those few seconds where I didn't raise my hand. I was thinking of what on earth I would talk about if I did do this. Could I do this? So I took my second to think about it, looked around a little nervously, and I said, you know what, sure, I trust myself, I'll go for it. And so I responded with a very confident, sure, sign me up. And so I was added to the list. Sorry. I was added to the list. And so as I was, thinking about what to write that rest of the block, I kind of got lost track of time, went to my next class, and I went on with my life. And so that first week when people are supposed to start preparing for the speech, I forgot that I had signed myself up. And so I come back the next week, and one of the club facilitators, Mr. Mendez, so excited, he came up to me, he jogged up, literally jogged up, and was up and said, "Pablito, ¿cómo va? ¿Cómo va el speech? Tell me ideas, man." And I stared back at him with a blank face. So that night, the pressure really started to set in. The weight of this speech started to push aside my other duties, my other responsibilities, and over dinner, I opened it up to the family. I had to. I was drawing blanks. I said, what could I write about? How could I cover my whole identity as a Latino person in just a 3-minute speech? I was going in circles. I was lost. For the younger folks in the crowd, you might have seen this. For the older folks in the crowd, on TikTok, teenagers who are typically fed up with their parents will get up online, post a little video, and one example that I found quite relatable was some kid, made a short little video with a dance saying, it's going to be a long day of doing chores when you wake up on a Saturday morning to the sound of a vacuum cleaner. Oh, the worst. And in my life, I had a very similar experience, but typically the vacuum cleaner was drowned out by the sound of some Bad Bunny or Celia Cruz or some salsa merengue. And I'd roll out of bed all angry that I got woken up, and I'd head downstairs to the kitchen, and I'd walk in, and bam, immediately swept off my feet into a circle with my grandma's hands and my feet on her feet, and I would learn how to dance. And these mornings were when I was most immersed in my Colombian culture. These mornings are when I learned to cook arepas, make pollo encebollado, and of course, when I learned how to speak Spanish. And speaking Spanish has been a gift. In fact, so for some further context, my grandparents, who grew up in Colombia, then moved to Spain, and then moved to Boston to be around my sister and I, and the rest of the family, really. They didn't really have much English by the time they got here. And so very enthusiastically, we signed them up for some classes in hopes that they would, be able to maybe get fluent. We'll see. And actually, my grandma got very politely asked to leave her English class. She was too busy trying to teach everyone else Spanish, because who needs to learn English when you could have everyone else speak Spanish? It's easier to chit-chat. So with the grandparents, we spoke Spanish. And speaking Spanish has gone so far for me at school, especially in the club, with students who arrive from their respective countries, Latin American, Spanish-speaking countries. It's amazing to be able to establish a connection with them. At work, I worked a few summers at Landry's Bikes. Love it. The day I was hired, a family came in who didn't speak English, and I was wrapping up with my interview, and someone came over and asked, hey, to the manager, Mark, I need some help with this Spanish-speaking family, and I was summoned. And that's how I ended up actually selling my first bike at Landry's. Thank you. And so Spanish speaking, of course, has also come a long way when I visit my family in Colombia. I remember my first time going to Colombia. We walk out of the airport, and along the fence there, the railing, there was 15 or 20 or so relatives with signs and flowers and all ready to go dance and hug and, introduce. And then we get back to their house, and there were more people with more signs and flowers and ready to introduce. Over the course of that trip, we met around 63 people. You can ask my sister, she counted. And all 63 of them were so warm, so welcoming, and so happy to have us. And that feeling, that sensation felt familiar to me, because with my grandmother, my Colombian grandmother, she treated my friends the same way. So warm, so welcoming. She made it clear that our house was my friend's house, and that they could take as much food as they wanted. And it was a lot of food that they took. Without having to speak a word of English, she got that point across. And that feeling has become a big part of who my family is, of who I am. And so when I would come back from Colombia, I would often bring back very good memories, good sounds in my ear, good flavors in my mouth. And I'd come back every time with a shirt just like this. And so when I brought that question to dinner of what on earth am I going to write about, someone said, oh, just write about the shirt. Of course. That shirt that I had, those shirts that I had religiously worn, that I had made synonymous with my name and my age and my introduction, that I had collected and worn even if it was too cold or if it went down past my knees. They became so much a part of my life that they were my life. but I stand today here before you, a changed man. Or a teenager, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm a man yet. My shirts and I have drifted. They've shown up less and less in my regular wardrobe rotation, and I can say that I've begun to separate myself and my identity from just the shirt. In August, I'm heading out to California to start my college life, my college career. Thank you. And I'll be bringing lots of stuff, as much as I can pack in a suitcase. I'll be bringing some areparina. I'll be making a new Spotify playlist with those same grooves, make me want to dance. And Mommy, I'll be calling you a lot, wherever you are. But most importantly, as I start this new chapter of my life, I know that it's not what I wear on the outside that matters, because on the inside, I can and always will be the same Columbia shirt kid. Thank you.